This content is brought to you by our channel members. Thank you all very much. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is finally here. Once Lost Games has finally dropped their devlog for the Wayward Realms. This is going to be a somewhat in-depth breakdown, so if you have not yet, do go over to their channel and give it a watch. Otherwise, this video is broken into several parts. I know a lot of you are already about to click away from the video, but stick around, as the first bit is going to be a too long, didn't read section. As for those of you with actually functioning attention spans, I hope you're just as excited to get into this as I am. I want to say a massive thank you to the Once Lost Games devs for letting me get a little sneak preview so that I can make this video for all of you. If you love the Wayward Realms, genre fantasy, TTRPGs, and want to see more content like this, please do hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Go ahead and click the bell as well. It is free, and it helps the channel out immensely. I do read all of the comments I get, and respond to as many as I can. And for this video, I have a question for you to consider whilst you watch. How do you feel about the state of the Wayward Realms after seeing the devlog? Give me a concern and a hope based on what you've seen there and here. Right, the teal deer stuff, for those of you that are itching to get away. 1. The creative director, Victor, warns there is a possibility of a delay to the early access version of the game. We could push into the new year, but we will see. He stressed that the first phase of early access will be leaps and bounds from what is being displayed in the devlog. 2. Victor also restates that the sad passing of Julian LeFay, the previous technical director and one of the two project founders, has resulted in a rework of the way they approach development. 3. The devlog shows pre-alpha footage. The graphical quality of the game reflects that, though some of the same sort of fidelity we saw a year ago in the gameplay trailer is still there in internal dungeon spaces as well as in a few town shots. 4. The scale of the game shown is mind-boggling. Massive cities, fully simulated night skies with 7 planetary bodies, weather systems affecting fauna and flora, natural coastlines and mountain ranges. Even in this early state, the wide shots are indeed very pretty. 5. The core systems of the game are working. They are simulating, quote, millions of NPCs, end quote, across the whole of the massive world map. This is incredibly granular as well, and I'll go over it more in the in-depth breakdown. 6. Dialogue with NPCs is done via translating existing game data into more varied prose. It's not generative. 7. NPCs have jobs, social statuses, etc. based on their own stat sheets. NPCs with high perception might be hunters. Those with high charisma might be politicians. The stat sheets presented are huge. 8. Combat functions on a dual bar system. When taking damage, your guard depletes before your health. When your HP takes enough damage, you start to accumulate wounds. Take enough wounds, and you die. Take enough wounds to black out, and you may end up in one of several vanquished scenarios, such as being captured by bandits or rescued by a passerby. 9. The magic system, including spellcrafting, is in the game and insanely detailed even in this bare-bones state. I'm blown away by the incredibly granular stuff you can play around with, personally. There are 2 types of spell, one-time casts and permanent casts. To create a reusable permanent spell, you might need to do it on a specific date, at a specific location, or with specific reagents. 10. Again, they stress that the team remains fiercely dedicated to bringing us the grand RPG they've been working on for a while now. It appears the sad loss of Julian LeFay has galvanized them, filling them with a sort of righteous determination to see the mission through. And there you are. That is the teal deer. Hopefully enough to earn a like, eh? Now, for those of you that want some really juicy meat, let's begin. Firstly, I want to commend the title of the devlog on YouTube, An Honest Update, and indeed it seems that way. I've now been speaking to Victor for a little around 5 or 6 months, with our initial interview taking place in May of 25. I'm not going to claim that I'm the bestest of friends with the Once Lost Games team, but I do have an insight into their characters. This first little message from Victor rings true for me. The hurt of losing a friend and mentor, and a determination to continue, inspire me on a somewhat spiritual level. I appreciate the frank delivery of how he's feeling about the game as it stands. So I too will echo his sentiment. This is a pre-alpha build of the game we are seeing. Its purposes were to get the main systems working after many months of struggle with Unreal Engine 5. As I said in a previous video, they had already warned us about their technical issues. It appears to me that they have solved these and can now work on making the game a little more pretty. The scale of Wayward Realms is one that probably requires the least amount of breakdown. The game is big, huge even. As Kai says in the devlog, they're making systems that express the world in a sensible and non-random way. Yes, procedural generation is being used, but it is being used in such a way that what is in the game is grounded. Fruit shops spawn fruit, dungeons have sensible layouts, NPCs behave appropriately in crowds, dress for the weather, or even for their activities on that particular day. And cities are comprised of thousands of buildings. They even track millions of non-player characters all the way on the other side of their world map, which, by the way, is more than twice the size of my country, Great Britain. The game is utterly massive in scale, yet each individual atom of that scale is also considered and simulated as accurately as possible. It is mind-boggling. Dialogue is text-based. The first question I asked Victor was if the scroll speed of the text could be adjusted, and he did say that it would be added, eventually. NPCs have massive tables of stats, and they even have the utter gall to say that the stats provided are missing a lot. Just look at all this information that the game is parsing and interpreting in order to create an NPC with a personality, a life, and a character all their own. Height, weight, wealth, sex, names, jobs, and hell, they've even got specific traits for each character, which I can only assume are being taken by an LLM to help translate the final dialogue to the player character. Take Ismay Port, for example, a prostitute that isn't talked about in the video, but does have some rather interesting traits. She's proud, pushy, and narcissistic twice. To make matters worse, she's fearless. She'll offend people by being too in love with herself. And to make her even more interesting, she has the down low on the Merchant's Guild, probably as a result of some aftermarket pillow talk. The system on display here is so insanely detailed that I can practically see the virtual game master using a character like this, a sassy mean girl prostitute, as a very useful informant. I'm already picturing slipping her gold coins not for her services as a lover for hire, but as a spy and informant. Looking to the stats for each of these NPCs, it is interesting to note that a lot of their jobs are defined by these stats. More perceptive NPCs being things like huntsmen, whilst more charismatic ones rise to political office, for example. The game uses a sentence in dialogue that is then translated into something more flavoured into the voice of that specific NPC. Also, the dialogue varies. It will refresh and be different in each conversation depending on world events, you, their relationship to you, the day, etc., etc., etc. Combat. The devlog refers to this as one of the most important parts of the game. I would think of it as the most important system they could have. The core gameplay loop, being an adventurer for hire, means you'll be swinging a weapon about for a good portion of your playtime. I myself like to have a heavy martial element to the characters I play, so I'm doubly excited for anything that involves fancy footwork and dramatic flourishes. Cast your mind back to the gameplay trailer from a year ago. The combat animations, the way the weapons clanged against one another, the way enemies accidentally hit one another. These are things I've praised in videos and on streams. I'm hoping that these systems make a comeback as they are worryingly absent from this log. Still, the ideas presented are quite interesting. The UI obviously has health, stamina, and magic bars, but also includes a guard bar. The idea is that the more you are hit, the more the guard depletes, and once it is gone, you then take damage to your health. I quite like this and hope that it is paired with a return to the combat animations previously showcased. The most interesting system, however, is the wounds and vanquish system. If you take too much damage to your health, you suffer wounds. Dependent on the severity of these wounds, you may of course die, but you may also enter a vanquished state if you do manage to cling to life. As a quick aside, this reminds me rather nicely of the wound threshold system employed by Dean in his TTRPG system, Untold Destiny. The vanquished state is a way in which you play beyond the game over. You may awake captured by bandits, rescued by a good Samaritan, or just where you fell missing some items. It is a showcase of the philosophy behind the Wayward Realms, where failure does not mean having to reload, resulting in a more natural, emergent narrative forming. Magic. A short little thing on magic here, detailing the two types of spells. You can know minor one-time cast magics, or learn permanent magic. The examples used are creating permanent magic, but I assume you can also learn some magic permanently from books or teachers or from guilds and such. This looks like it is shaping up to be the Daggerfall magic creation system on steroids, and I can only imagine that Inter, whose recent podcast episode over on Inter's Odyssey, which was all about magic, is going to be quite happy with the amount of effects he'll be able to play around with for all his niche contingency plans. The fact that the cosmos is always in motion with 7 bodies, and that having an effect on spell creation alongside being in a good locale and having the correct ingredients, says to me that magic will be incredibly powerful if you can invest the time into making it so. Quest to the ends of the earth, to roleplay Sephiroth, and cast Meteor. Oh, maybe that's how the archipelago became the archipelago, from one landmass. Wait, are we collecting materia? And finally, the seasons. There are 7 moons that orbit the world that the archipelago inhabits. Their rotations and orbits change throughout the year and with the seasons. The seasons themselves affect flora and fauna, and as you can see, the towns and people of those towns as well. That is basically the devlog. I'm now unscripted, and I wanted to simply say again, please do like and subscribe. I started this when I got home from my full-time job, and it is now approaching midnight. This is to try and go up as soon as the devlog releases as well. If you are looking forward to the Wayward Realms, please do click the link below. There is the link tree for Once Lost Games. You are still able to get into backing the Wayward Realms over on Kickstarter, even though the Kickstarter was successful. Late backing is available, and that will give you access to the early access when it drops, hopefully at the end of this year. Could be the beginning of next. I have quite a lot of faith in these guys. It's quite obvious that I'm something of a simp, but I am trying to be fair-minded in the way I go about covering this upcoming game. For me, this is a chance to live out Daggerfall in a modern setting, or a more modern quality of life video game, but it also is a way of stepping out of my real life. There's quite a bit going on in real life which has me stressed out, both good and bad. And the idea of being able to slip into some well-worn travel boots and a weather-stained cloak and just set off across the archipelago in search of treasure and dragons to slay, it gives me quite a bit of comfort. So, if you too wish to see this game do well, wish to see a Daggerfall for the modern world, do go and think about backing the Kickstarter. Again, it is linked below. Thank you very much for watching. If you have not yet, please do like, subscribe, and comment with a hope and a fear for the Wayward Realms based on the devlog, what you have seen here, what you have seen there. With that, I wish you all a good night, and God bless.